Happy International Women's Day. Or are we even allowed to say that anymore? Has women become an offensive term yet? Does the fact that I was born a woman and have lady parts just offend people who wish they did? Am I even allowed to exist? Seriously. Because if the left had it their way, this day probably wouldn't even exist anymore in and of itself. After all, they're on an all-out crusade to erase women from society, negate anything that makes us unique, and allow biological men to co-opt our gender whenever it suits them. Can't get a medal in your own track meet? That's okay. Just come take ours. It's fine. So unfortunately, this Women's Day has become less about celebrating women and their accomplishments and more about just simply defending the fact that we exist in the first place. That we are inherently unique and valuable, that being a woman is not as simple as picking an option on a menu. We're more than that. And just because the left has tossed out this basic biological reality and all but abandoned women in favor of politics doesn't mean it's not true. It's science. It doesn't bend to your opinion or your agenda, and neither do I. For thousands of years, generations of women had to fight for their right to exist as equal members of society. In many places in the world, they're still fighting for the right to education, the right to vote, the right to own property, the right to own themselves, for the right to marry who they want or not marry at all, for the right not to be marginalized or even murdered for stepping out of line. Pro-life women are fighting for the right for baby girls to be born and not exterminated just because they're seen as the less valuable gender, which in many countries they are. While American women already enjoy equality thanks to generations of brave women who came before us, other women across many other nations are still fighting for these basic rights. Because that's what women have always had to do. And those victories are what a day like this should celebrate. But over here in America and in other parts of the Western world, the rabid left is actually seeking to erase everything that makes women who we are and completely destroy any ground we've gained that put us on equal footing with men. From hospitals in the UK banning words like breastfeeding so as to not offend people without boobs, to an Australian university declaring that women-focused words like mother actually cause harm to trans people. Progressives aren't just seeking to cancel anyone who might offend the LGBTQ LMNOP crowd. They want to cancel women altogether. Take the Equality Act, for example, already passed in the House of Representatives and facing an uphill battle in the Senate, maybe. But the fact that we are even having the discussion about whether biological men should be able to take over women's sports, invade our bathrooms and our private spaces, or be treated like women just because they say they are one is absolutely insane. That the party of science is so out to lunch they think it doesn't matter that a 6'2" dude with buckets of testosterone and greater muscle mass can steal a championship and a scholarship from a young lady who has worked her tail off to get where she's at, only to find her work and her dreams squashed by a man. If that is not a step backwards, I'm not sure what direction you're looking. And while it is equally as offensive to say that a woman can become a man simply because she feels like one, women, as usual, stand to lose far more in this battle. If a biological woman wants to run in the men's 10K, best of luck to you, honey. But if a man is allowed to compete against women, then women's sports are completely annihilated. If a woman walks into a men's dressing room, it's uncomfortable. If a man walks into a woman's, it's a threat. But these are the risks the left is willing to take for women, for little girls, for hardworking female athletes who have poured in blood, sweat, and tears, all to appease 0.3% of the population with a mental illness because it scores them woke points. So hear me loud and clear. Women are inherently valuable, not because we feel like it, but because we were created to be. Only women have uteruses, and yes, unless something went medically wrong, all women have them. Only women get pregnant. Only women can nurse their children. Don't believe me? Go try milking a bull and see how that works out for you. Women are made exactly the way God designed us, and that is to be different from biological men. These are not interchangeable terms, and he didn't screw up. To boil down womanhood to a feeling is about as insulting as you can get. What does that even mean? That you feel like a woman? That you're a woman because what? You like wearing high heels and watching Say Yes to the Dress? What garbage is that? To say that's all it takes to be female? What shallow, stereotypical bullcrap. If you weren't born a woman, you can't feel like one because you've never been one to know what it feels like. to know the unique challenges that come with having female parts, female hormones, female struggles and difficulties, to be created with the chemical makeup inherent to women that you can't possibly have unless you were born with it. You don't know because you can't know, just like I will never know what it feels like to be a man, and that is okay because I was never meant to. This International Women's Day, let's take back womanhood from all those who think it all boils down to whether a person likes to wear dresses, and who are willing to sacrifice decades worth of progress for women on the altar of social justice. Because any party, any group, any ideology that's willing to erase women from society to appease a small number of gender-confused men does not stand for women. And it is time to recognize that the left used us as props for votes when it was politically expedient. And now that they've found a new victim group to appease, we are considered disposable. But we're not. You're not getting rid of us that easily. And if you think you are, you don't know women, which I guess is kind of the whole point. And that's your Reality Check America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.